Well, the time is just gone 8:17 a.m. and we kick off this morning on the Friday edition of News and Views right here on Salam Media, taking a look at poverty in South Africa. Now, quite interesting to see StatsSA release certain numbers, and these numbers obviously tell a story with regard to poverty in South Africa. The key issue here is how does one actually differentiate or measure poverty, and when we're talking about the different levels of poverty, extreme poverty, earnings of people living below a certain line in terms of poverty as well for basic needs, basic services, basic food as well. And all of this we are going to try and unpack in our interview with the acting director or acting deputy director general at StatsSA, Molayi. Solly, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning and good morning to the listeners.
Yes, Solly, in fact, the numbers that have been released by StatsSA clearly tell a quite an interesting story with regard to poverty. And although we are talking about extreme poverty, which is dropping by, but half of South African kids still live on the edge. And this tells a huge story. This actually reflects a picture of where we are in South Africa as far as poverty is concerned.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. Yesterday we released a report where we are looking at the national poverty lines. So there's maybe just to assist the listeners, there's different measures of defining a poverty. In South Africa, we're using three measures. One is what we call it the money matrix, meaning we're looking at the income and expenditure within the household, and we determine which threshold we can actually define a household or individually below a certain levels. The second measure is what we call it the multidimensional poverty. In your introduction, you spoke about lack of services, lack of education. That is multidimensional poverty. The third one is the subjective poverty, meaning solely will define whether they think they are poor on the basis of their own experience and their own perspective. So those are the three measures. Yesterday, we released what we call it the money matrix. Hence, we're having a three lines that can able to give you a value to say if you are living below a food poverty line, it means that you are having less than 777 rands. The next line, which is in the national poverty, in the national development plan, is called the lower bound poverty line. It's for those who are earning 1,300 rand. If you don't have 1,300 per person per month, you are now classified as a lower bound poor. And then the last one is what we call it the upper bound poverty line, which is amounting to 2,635 rand. So these are the three lines that we are using as a money matrix. And I think you've also had the World Bank, they're also using the same measure where they're talking about $1 per person below a poverty line. Now they've even improved it to a $3 per person for you to be classified as poor. So yesterday, as I said, we have released, and indeed, we have seen that poverty have declined under food poverty. However, children are still the face of poverty, where we are seeing more of our young ones as actually experiencing poverty, especially food poverty.
Solly, obviously these numbers tell quite a story, but even if we are seeing signs of extreme poverty declining, according to StatsSA and according to the numbers that have been released, the key issue here is one of the reasons is looking at South Africa and looking at where we are. We're close to two-thirds of the population are now regarded as poor. And earning less than the upper bound poverty line of 2,635 rand. Now, to a large extent, this is as a result of government intervention and more in terms of grants. And I'm sure that obviously has helped a lot in terms of reducing this number of extreme poverty we're talking about.
Indeed. I mean, from our side, we wanted to understand what drives the numbers to drop. And definitely, if you look at the household that are food poor, which is about 10.8 million, and you take out the income, which is the social grant, and also remittance from those households, the number moved from 10.8 million to about 19 million people. So, to your point, correctly so, we have seen that the investment that government have put in terms of social wages, it's a social program. It's actually shaping how these numbers looks like. What we are also now starting to see is that your rural provinces, your Limpopo, your Mpumalanga, and Northwest, it's starting to see a drop also, although it's still below the averages. And again, what we are also starting to see that our economic hub, your Western Cape and Gauteng, specifically Gauteng, we're seeing that the poverty numbers for Gauteng, they are not dropping compared to the other provinces. In actual fact, we're starting to see that Gauteng is starting to gain more of people who we classify them as poor according to the lower bound. And this is not surprising because remember, Gauteng is having a lot of people who are coming in, especially the neighboring provinces, and also those who are coming from outside South Africa. Their first destination is Gauteng. So Gauteng is having a little bit of its own challenges when you compare it across the other provinces.
Yes, I just want to come back and to talk a bit about child poverty, and because
Yes.
these are the most vulnerable at this point in time, Solly. And looking at these are young children who are obviously hopeful of a better future in this country, and this, I'm sure, is a very, very worrying sign where we are talking about child poverty now.
Indeed. We're talking about 43% of those we classify them as children, which is between 0 and 17. Now, if you increase the age and you look at the poverty up until 34, it's now moving to 70%. So basically, what it's saying is that 71% of those who are under age 35, they are classified as poor according to the lower bound poverty. This is our youth. This is our children. If you look at the population in totality in South Africa, it's a young, youthful population. So we are seeing now that the poverty in those age cohort is quite high. If you use the other metrics like your unemployment, which is the numbers that we've released in the previous quarters, again we're seeing similar picture within the same age cohort. The number of those who are not working, who are discouraged, is again higher in those age cohort. Again, we just released another report where we're looking at the recorded live births, meaning the number of young mothers who went to Home Affairs to register their babies. Again, we're seeing the same trend where the young mothers between the same age of children, they went to Home Affairs to actually register their own babies. So this is something that as a community and as government and also businesses that we need to work around how we're going to assist our young ones, especially now that the NDP is indicating that by 2030, whether you're using poverty line or a lower bound poverty line, the indicator is saying by 2030 should be zero. We are sitting about 17%. We are sitting about 37% in terms of the lower bound. We are only left with 5 years. So we need to be hard on work, ensuring that the young ones, those who are in the youth bracket, they are able to enjoy the economy, the benefits of economy, but at the same time also move out of the poverty and getting jobs and also go to schools so that they have a better future.
Solly, just finally, the fact that StatsSA has done all the work in producing these numbers, statistics, and obviously all of them tell a story. Uh, at the end of the day, where to from here for, StatsSA, or what are your expectations after all this hard work has been done that reveals that we are still in a very, very grim situation in terms of overcoming poverty in this country?
Okay, so this is our expectation. One, to inform the listeners. So the listeners, this is your report. The data is available on our website. We are available to assist to explain the numbers and through your media. And also, we are hoping that the students who are doing their masters, their PhD, they can actually take this data, mine into it, overlay with other data, look at your own communities, come up with some better solutions that can able to assist within the community. We are also expecting the policymakers, because we will be going to parliament, we will be going to all the portfolio committees to present these numbers, so that when they are looking at their policies, they are able to take into account what is happening. We are also expecting the business community, the NGOs, and the community-based service organization to take these numbers when they are also looking at their own program, introducing their own community programs. They know who she's supposed to target. So we're hoping that all South Africans across the board, they will be able to use this data. And again, StatsSA is there to assist in terms of making sure that this data, you can able to understand it and make it much more easier for people to able to use it.
Well, Solly Molayi, Acting Deputy Director General at StatsSA, we thank you. We do appreciate you taking time out for us this morning and unpacking what you have and these numbers that have been revealed by StatsSA. All the best to you, sir.
Thank you.
Solly Molayi joining us this morning, Acting Deputy Director General at StatsSA. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We've got a pre-recorded interview that we have done with Bilal Abdul Karim, looking at Syria as it marks the first anniversary since the toppling of the Bashar al-Assad regime.